Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Traffic Commission meeting of October 20th to order. Members present, Police Chief Dave Callahan, City Planner Frank Stringy, City Engineer Nick Rystrom, and Fire Chief Chris Sprite. If you could join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the public hearing is a request to amend Schedule 11 of Title 10 Handicapped Persons Parking by adding 22 Suffolk Avenue. Anyone in favor of placing a handicap sign?
Mr. Chairman, both of these addresses, I'm going to take them up separately. We're doing this as a formality for 22 Suffolk Ave and 39 Larkin because of, at the last meeting, there was a dire need for both of these signs to be installed. They've met all the criteria, all the documentation was set, so we had put them in as an emergency basis and scheduled for a public hearing at this meeting in case there was any conflicts or any residents had any issues with these at that time. So we just wanted to follow all the city ordinances by putting them on for a public hearing at this time.
Okay.
Signs have been installed.
Thank you, Mr. DeChico. So 22 Suffolk Ave and 39 Larkin, is there anybody here that would be opposed to these handicap signs? Hearing none, do I have a motion to make these official?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Second, thank you. All in favor? So ordered. We also have a handicap sign, I believe it was put under request for 74 Victoria Street. Is that person present?
I am, sir.
Oh, if you would like to come up and speak.
Yes, I would.
We've taken this out of the request. I know we've had a scheduled public hearing a few times, and this spot was denied. But we certainly want to hear what you have to say, and please press the button, state your name and address. And
My name is Paula Thorner. I live at 74 Victoria Street, Revere, Mass. I'm a lifetime resident of Revere. The last couple of times this was on the agenda, I did not know the process. I did not know I had to show up. I spoke with Mr. Ralph and Paul. I do have emails. I have nowhere to park. I don't have any parking spots. I don't have any driveways. I have residents. My neighbors have 4 or 5 residential parking stickers now. They have driveways. They don't use them. I got all the medical documentation, and that was part of the process for a handicap spot. They didn't tell me because I lived on the wrong side of the street. I just don't get it. I got all the documentation medically, so I don't know what else I have to do to get a spot.
okay, unfortunately, the policy of the Traffic Commission, we place handicap signs when they're allowed in front of your home. When the side of the road that you're living on has no parking, we have a policy that we don't place signs across the street in front of somebody else's home. And we have consistently denied anyone with that situation. So, unfortunately, to take this out of the way we conduct business, all those other people that we have denied, it wouldn't be proper. So that's the reason you're denied, not that, we don't feel you're medically, in need of one. It's just we don't place handicap signs across the street in front of other homes. So now there is no parking for your...
No.
No?
No, I'm a renter. I don't have an option. When you're giving, my street went residential. You give 4 or 5 cars in one address, residential parking. Where's my option?
Right.
They have driveways. They don't use them. So I'm just saying it. So, what if I was in a wheelchair or something? I'd still be denied because I live on the wrong side of the street. That's kind of sad.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's our policy, and we have consistently denied people, residents, for that reason.
Just a point of information, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman. I thought that property, we were told, had parking in the rear.
Right.
That was one of those places built with the variance, to
Okay.
have parking in the rear.
Frank, would you have any information on that? or-
My
No,
house?
this structure is a pre-existing non-conforming structure built
Right.
many years ago. They do have a small parking area on the side. Would you be allowed to park there? And
That's never been an option. I've been there 10 years. That's, my landlord has a driveway, and then her children, and that's where they park. That's never been an option for me, ever.
so that's not part of
No,
your
no,
use?
no, it wasn't anything when I moved in, it wasn't on a lease, it wasn't an agreement, it wasn't anything. I'm just saying, there are times, I have to park on Vinyl Street. And that's all I'm saying, so.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion from the, any commissioner? They're just looking at your situation there on Google Maps.
Mr. Chairman, is this a motion to move it to a public hearing?
Well, I don't see a reason to go another step here if we're going to either deny it or accept it. I don't know what pushing it off to another meeting would do for us.
I do see a curb cut and area to the right that a car is parked in. It's a gravel lot. Is that owned by the same, you in a condominium association?
Yeah, it's 5 townhouses together, yes.
You do not own that
I do
property?
not own, I rent. I've been there almost 10 years. Again, my landlord, adjacent, the first, when you come in, she has a parking space herself, a parking driveway. And then the whole, whatever land is her land, I have no idea. I mean, that, like I said, when I moved in, that's never been an option for me. I've been there almost 10 years.
Frank, as a point of clarification, when these were non-conforming, I believe there was also, there was open space in the back that buildings got built, but I thought when they were built, that land that you're seeing on the side, and that was the reason why they let them turn them to the condos or whatnot, because of that, where you see that curb cutting, they allowed all those units to be built. Whether the landlord is telling his tenants or not, that was supposed to be deeded spots for those. I thought that's what we had discussed when we talked before. That's the reason why they were non-conforming and allowed. And that's what I had tried explaining way back when this initially came up, the handicapped parking spot, because of the ordinance is not allowed on this side of the street, that I wanted to see if they could investigate that is the parking spots for those 5 townhouses. Whether the landlord or the owner of the property is not telling the tenants, that's not something that the city is supposed to be liable for. But that would be because of the non-conforming use that those spots are there. I'm not sure. You would have that direct answer for that.
Yeah, we'd have to seek clarification from the original building permit. You know, these townhouses have been there for many years.
Yeah, 100 years, I think.
Yeah, so when the permits were issued, there was no requirement for parking.
And there's nothing in the back, there's yard in the back, there's steps going down, so you could never park in the back of the house.
So they were built prior to zoning,
Yeah.
and so that's why they're grandfathered in.
So Frank, maybe we can investigate that piece of land alongside where this resident lives. I don't believe, though, that land might be owned by the people in the back, so I don't know if the landlord can, are you seeing the same thing I did, Nick?
It looks like the property on the side is part of the property that the townhouses are on.
Okay,
It's kind of a funny shape.
like a triangle.
It's like a
yeah.
triangle,
Right.
but it looks like it is part of that property.
It's not a buildable lot, so let's take a look into that. If it's
Okay.
owned by the same association, the owner of the condominiums, we can.
Okay, so what we can do for you, ma'am, is we can talk with the landlord there and see if there's something we can work out for you.
Okay,
All
all right,
right?
thank you very much, have a good
Okay.
day.
All right, I wish I had a better answer for you. The next item on the public hearing is to amend Schedule 5 of Title 10 by adding Derby Road northeasterly, Grover to Squire, and Derby Road southwesterly, Grover to Malden. And the third thing is public hearing to amend Schedule 5 of Title 10 by adding Sigourney Street southwesterly, Grover to Malden, and B, Sigourney Street northeasterly, Grover to Squire. So this issue has been discussed several times. I'll just give an update to the residents that are here. On Monday night, Councilor Serino, I know many of you were there, asked for funding for a traffic study. Money has been, the mayor has earmarked some money for that study. We are now currently getting a couple of proposals from 2 or 3 different traffic engineers, as we need to do as a procurement process. I spoke to one. They feel as though once the go-ahead is given to them, the study can be done within 6 to 8 weeks. So we can have a very quick turnaround to this study. So everything is in place. We just need to do our due diligence with getting some proposals. I asked if the weather affected the study at all. They said no, with the modern equipment they have now, video cameras and things, that they can do it in the cold weather. Before we hear from the residents, there's a letter here from Councilor Serino. Councilor Serino is on vacation out of the country. He asked me to read this for him, which I'll do. Dear honorable members of the Traffic Commission, my apologies for not being in attendance. I am pleased to formally announce that on Monday, October 17th, the City Council approved a motion that I filed along with Ward 3 Councilor Anthony Cogliandro to seek funding for a traffic study as discussed at the September 29th Traffic Commission meeting. I have been in contact with Mayor Rigo as well as the Chairman of the Traffic Commission, Agenzio, and Chief Callahan about undertaking this traffic study, and I have requested swift action to move this forward. Additionally, for the edification of residents and the Commission, it is my understanding that shovels will likely not be in the ground at the Popeye site on Squire Road until spring 2023, and that Popeyes is projected a late summer 2023 opening. In terms of a timeline, I am respectfully insisting that the study be done at the earliest opportunity in this fiscal year, and that any recommendations coming on the heels of a final report of said study be implemented by early next summer at the latest, in order to satisfy any concerns of the residents of Derby Road. I would respectfully ask and make it known that my express wish as the ward councilor is that the Traffic Commission implement any findings and recommendations of this study relative to a traffic mitigation plan prior to the opening of Popeyes. In addition to my updates, I wish to reiterate that my comments made to your honorable body on September 29th meeting stand relative to the trial period for the one-ways of the upper part of Sigourney and the lower part of Derby. Because Sigourney Street has a traffic light at the end, and we have realized that people will still have to get to that bottom half of Sigourney to utilize that light, as the ward councilor, I think it is more difficult to justify keeping Sigourney Street a do not enter from Malden Street for the time being, given the tremendous ripple effect it has had on the neighboring streets. At the August meeting of the Traffic Commission, I asked that the Commission retain the one-ways as was set out for the trial period and address other streets' concerns as they arose. But with regard to Sigourney Street specifically, I am not sure how that can be done, given, as we have seen over the last 2 months during the trial. Vehicles still need to make their way to the lower part of Sigourney Street to get to the traffic light. However, because Derby Road does not have a traffic light and does not go across Squire Road, I think it is manageable to keep Derby Road a do not enter from Squire Road, as was done during the trial period. I remain empathetic with the residents of these impacted streets, and I would urge and employ that in the meantime, while we await the results of the traffic study, that the police department vigorously increase patrols for people speeding / failing to stop on Sigourney Street and Gore Road, and consider the possibility of placing speed humps, even temporary ones, on these streets at the intersection of Grover Street, as well as consider other creative solutions residents may propose during tonight's meeting. On a bit of a separate note, I would like to respectfully request the Traffic Commission affix an additional do not enter sign at the corner of Squire Road and Sigourney on the pole, which already has the one-way sign, as residents have seen an uptick of people from Northgate trying to enter Sigourney Street because the do not enter sign on the other side of the corner next to Joe's Market is sometimes not fully visible due to overgrowth of a tree. In closing, I thank you for your consideration of this letter, and I respectfully ask that you consider these comments as you deliberate and decide on the next steps. Thanks again, Richard Serino, Ward 6 Councilor. So I'm going to ask the residents if they'd like to come up and speak. If you could be as brief as possible. I know we've heard the different reasonings everyone has. So I'm welcome to come up. And if you could keep your comments to 2-3 minutes, give everyone a chance to speak.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to...
Name and address, please.
Oh, Dan 40, 18 Sigourney Street. I just wanted to address a couple of things. So I was unable to make the city council meeting that was on 10/17 due to work. But what I didn't realize was that we were going to be discussing the recommendation in the ruling of this commission. Nor did I realize that we were going to make an attempt to have the city council reverse the ruling that was made to this commission. So I just want to point out that, I really didn't have any idea that was going on, nor neither did anybody else. I was really surprised to hear at that meeting that 8% of the residents in that neighborhood are not as important as the other 92. So that was a little disheartening. I don't recall the commission in any of our meetings ever saying that they would reverse Sigourney Street and Derby Road based on adverse effects. What I do remember, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was that we said we would do a 60-day trial. And what we said was, if I recall, it was Councilor Serino that had said, we wish that this commission would not change it back if there were adverse effects, that we would assist the rest of the streets in what they need to get their streets back in order. So I just want to make sure that that was the understanding, or maybe I was missing something.
So a 60-day trial is just what it is. It's for the commission to see what the impacts were on the other streets and what effect it had. As far as the commission goes, we didn't make any commitments to just do a 60-day trial and then keep it or not keep it. It was to see what effects it had. Maybe the change made everybody happy, maybe
Sure.
it didn't, but, so we are now at the end of the 60-day trial, and then now we're hearing from the residents to see where we go from here. The traffic study certainly is needed, and we're going to get that done as expeditiously as possible.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. A traffic study needs to be done, but just and I'm not a traffic expert, I'm not an attorney, but just based on your understanding of traffic, if we open up Derby Road and Popeyes opens, right, do we feel that, based on what's currently going on, that people are going to go down Derby Road and loop back up to Sigourney Street to get back up onto Squire Road and Route 1?
That's what the traffic study will tell us, I'm sure.
Is that the way everybody feels?
You know,
Okay. So again, thank you for your time. I just
Okay.
wanted to...
thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Adele Cataldo, 38 Sigourney Street. Is it possible for us to keep it the way it is, since we're all happy with it, until the study is completed?
Well, that's a consideration that we have. We're listening to what everyone has to say, and then we'll make that determination after everyone speaks.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Joanne Janino, 14 Sigourney Street. And I just want to thank the commission for listening to our petition. We did it the right way. We didn't hound people. We presented it the way it was supposed to be done. And we appreciate that you did this study. And I hope, we all hope, that you'll consider the fact our lives have been so much better the last 60 days, and we've been putting up with this for a long time, and it's not fair. I don't care about the light, the traffic light. And I feel bad for people on Charger Street because they're affected as badly as we are. But I just want you to know I appreciate that you took this into consideration, and I do want to reiterate that we did do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Diego Sorno, 25 Sigourney Street. I want to commend you for the work that you're doing, and I also want to show the support of the residents of Sigourney in the lower side, where we're really happy with how, I've been there for 6 years now, and the difference that we're experiencing in the traffic is a great, great living. So thank you for the work that you guys are doing, and I would like to have, I would like to see what the study will bear before a decision is made to change it back. Thank you.
And if I could just interject, the traffic study does include 1 or 2 public input meetings. So you'll be able to address the traffic engineer personally and express your concerns to them so they can get a good idea what everybody is feeling here.
One more question. Thank
Sure.
you for your input on that. But I didn't realize that this meeting was taking place, nor that the 17th one took place. Is it possible for us residents to be notified of such a meetings, or are we supposed to be checking in on the city's?
Well, the
website?
Traffic Commission meets the 3rd Thursday of every month.
Okay.
So I know the last 2 meetings, we did do a robocall. I know some residents didn't get it for some reason. I can't explain why that didn't happen. But yes, we meet the 3rd Thursday of every month, and the agenda is posted the week before. So if you go on the city calendar, go to the Traffic Commission, the agenda will be there a week prior to the meeting.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I don't want to speak either in favor or against. I just want to get some facts to you as far as numbers that we have. And from Charger Street all the way down, the whole neighborhood, in the last 5 years, has been out of control with traffic. Charger Street's seeing, 4,000 to 5,000 cars a day. Gore Road was seeing 200 to 300 cars a day. They're probably seeing 1,500 cars a day now on Gore Road coming up.
Okay.
Orvis Road, we're seeing 300 cars maybe. They're probably around 400 or 500 cars a day. Derby Road went down. Sigourney went down considerably. Augusta Street went up. Keeney Street went up. As far as Pemberton, Stephen, and Marshall Street, minimal. As far as speed is concerned, the average speed on them side streets is less than 22 miles an hour, average speed. The top speeds, 40 to 50 miles an hour. All right, now the speeds are done not over a course of 6 days, 7 days, 5 days. We have month-long surveys. We took a summary of them, a clip out of them, and put them up for you. The surveys go back as far as '04 for Sigourney Street. Back then, there were 2,500 cars a day. '06, 2,500 cars a day. 2017, 2,500 cars a day. Derby Road, before Honeydew was there, when they were there back in '17, Derby Road saw 1,000 cars a day more than they're seeing now. So Popeye's coming in, it opened a can of worms. And it says, it affects the whole neighborhood. As far as car counts, I mean, we're overwhelmed. The difference is Sigourney Street had an idea that we came to you with to try something out. And it worked. And if Augusta Street did the same thing, in Orvis, in Gore, in Charger, but it has to be what works for that neighborhood. You can't say to them, we're changing your neighborhood, and we're changing the street direction, and you're gonna live with it. It's what works for you. You know, what would make your life better, your quality of life better over there? So we're just asking, a little relief. And, work with the whole neighborhood. But we do have numbers and stuff, and, and it's everyone. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Genio. And I know the traffic engineer that I had spoke to was very interested in the counts that we've had over the years, and that will certainly be taken into consideration. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. Just press the button.
Verena 40, 18 Sigourney Street.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I just asked that until the survey's done, that we keep Sigourney Street and Derby Road the way it is. I feel that it's confusing to change the signs, then change them back. I mean, Sigourney Street has absorbed this traffic for so long, and I think that we should just wait and leave it the way it is until a, professional study has been done. That's really it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Domenica from 74 Grover Street. Last meeting, I kind of touched upon the accidents that were happening on Sigourney and on Derby. I live on the corner of Derby and Grover, and this is kind of off topic, but I feel like it's important. On October 2nd, a drunk driver landed on my front lawn after she ran over my stop sign. That's just one of the people that kind of crossed through. She's not even from here, she's from Everett. So just put into perspective that sometimes people want to eat after they drink a lot, and they want to go through a drive-through, and that's the kind of people that could come through late night, and that's the type of people that'll come through and get on your lawn or run over a sign, or it's dangerous. So it's just one thing to think about. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other people wishing to speak?
Good afternoon. Gennaro Cataldo, 140 Derby Road. I'm a homeowner there, and I'm also a resident over at 35 Augusta Street. I'd like to give you, at the last meeting, we had, I think it was on the 29th, I gave you a petition. We have additional names we've been able to get. So I'd like to just share that with, amend the last petition that we sent up. The next thing I'd like to share with you.
So this petition pertains to what?
It was to rescind the order or the trial period, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
For both Derby and Sigourney. In addition to that, I want to thank the police department. They have been very forthcoming with the packet of information that you have been given for this meeting, as well as prior information, the information that was presented back on August 18th. I put together something for you. And what it is, let me make sure I have it. It's a visual representation of that data. I'm going to talk about this in a couple minutes. If you don't mind, I'm not going to spend more than a couple minutes up here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking through you to the commissioners on behalf of the residents of Ward 6 standing before me. All the residents standing now, please. And if you care to put their names in the record, they will be happy to file to the podium and state their name, address, and affirmation with this statement. There's one of us speaking for all. I'm also speaking on behalf of the residents who are unable to be here but have signed a petition for this matter, the petition that you have in your hands right now. We ask that you consider these documents in addition to the names submitted. We believe one voice is important. Our councilor's letter does not represent the intentions of the majority, 91% of the Ward 6 residents, nor does he write to you on our behalf, that 91%. Our councilor did not seek input from that 91% of Ward 6 residents prior to filing this motion, a motion with the commission on August 18th. He's not representing the majority of Ward 6 in this matter. None of us can begin to understand our councilor's logic in his letter, and he has not given us a reason through many phone calls based on data, analysis, or hard facts. Our neighborhood from Malden Street to Squire Road, Marshall Street to Charger Street, consists of 392 homes. How do I know? I counted them. The August 18th trial improved traffic for only 43 homes on 2 half-streets, the half of Sigourney from Grover to Malden, and the half of Derby from Grover to Squire Road, leaving the rest of the residents, 349 homes, negatively affected from Marshall to Charger. Only 8.6% of the area was positively impacted, 91% was negatively impacted by the changing traffic patterns. When this commission started the trial, it was stated after 60 days the impact would be reviewed. Exactly what you said earlier, Mr. Chairman. Our neighborhood's been a mess. Our neighborhood has been a mess. We ask that you return Derby Road and Sigourney back to their original directions on or before November 1st, as the negative impacts to the entire Ward 6 neighborhood have been piling up since the trial began. Let's talk about the traffic volume data that was supplied in your packet for this meeting, as well as the data from previous meetings. I also would like to say that Sergeant Giannino's expertise on this in the history over the years, I completely believe, being a lifelong resident of the city and that area. The one item that the entire Ward 6 neighborhood agrees on is that speed through our streets is a major problem and has to be remediated separately, as it has nothing to do with the traffic flow study that is being proposed, or the traffic flow issue at hand. So traffic flow is one thing, and definitely the speed is another. Speed can't be controlled by changing street direction. The volume data we have thus far in front of you is incomplete. There is no before and after data of the affected streets. One would assume that if you did some data before, sample those streets, you'd do some data in the same direction after. That did not occur, and you can see that on this chart. There is no before and after of any of the affected streets. The only data before changes for Augustus, Derby, and Sigourney, but there's none after. To make it easier to see, look at the map. The map shows all the collected volume data. Green arrows show the directions and average cars before the trial. Red shows directions and average cars after Derby and Sigourney were changed. You can see the arrows and you see the way that they go. You can see the averages. Those are there. We calculate out the averages. One day we left out was October 12th on Augustus Street. That was the day we were having the sewers relined. So that data didn't matter. It's pretty much nothing that day. Prior to the trial, the traffic data for Augustus Street was only sampled from Squire to Grover. So in other words, coming down from Squire Road, from the yellow road there down. Derby was sampled from Squire to Grover as well. Here it is important to note that Derby and Augustus on average had equal numbers of cars in the same direction prior to the change. I know they petitioned you. Maybe we should have done the same thing for Augustus, but it would have made sense to say, hey, geez, Augustus and Derby, they're doing the same thing. They have the same number of cars. Now, let's look at the red arrows. After the change was made, sampling was done on Augustus from Malden to Grover, northbound, towards Squire Road. Different direction. You can't compare those. How can you compare those numbers? You can't. Sampling was done on Gore and Orvis, but there's no before data to compare. There is data for Sigourney northbound before the study, but not after. Same for Derby, so again, we cannot compare even those portions of the streets, even though they've become essentially private, ultra-quiet streets at the expense of the rest of the ward. The data is not sufficient, so there's no way to compare the effects of change. Any data that the Traffic Commission currently has is incomplete. There is no justification for keeping Derby and Sigourney in its current configuration. The data doesn't support these changes. The data does not support a positive vote in favor of keeping Derby and Sigourney in their current state. The Commission cannot use this data to vote in favor of keeping the new directions of Derby and Sigourney. There simply is no hard evidence to do this. We cannot continue to move the problem to other neighboring streets without analyzable data to support this, i.e. the study. Positively impacted neighbors will challenge the proposal to return Sigourney and Derby to their original configuration until after the study's been completed. However, there's a significant flaw in that thinking. They will be clearly a target of the study because the streets are so quiet now. We do not need a traffic study to waste funds to both identify and target the quietest streets of the neighborhood. We need to return the streets their original directions the way it was, so the traffic flow on all streets can be studied and remediated properly. We need to ensure that the traffic flow study, and I hope it's a traffic flow study, includes any effect that Popeyes and any other known new businesses coming to this area will be taken into account. On behalf of the residents of Ward 6, residents who are here or who have signed the petition in support of returning Derby and Sigourney to their original directions, we respectfully ask that the Traffic Commission vote based on the information, data, and facts that you all have in hand. And please, not on hearsay, suggestions, suppositions, or emotions of all involved in this matter. We all want what's best for our homes, our families, our streets, all of our streets, and our neighborhood. We are asking that you return the streets as soon as possible and complete that study. We look forward to the recommendations of this traffic flow study. Thank you. As a question to you, Mr. Chairman, I'm a bit foggy on the language of the agenda. Items 2 and 3, we don't understand a vote for or against. And then item 4. Can we have that explained to us, how 2 and 3 are related to 4, please?
So when we do vote, it'll be very clear. We're either going to return them. We're going to take each street separately. I'll see what the will of the commission is, and we'll vote for Sigourney, whether to keep it or reverse it, and then we'll vote on Derby, whether to keep it or reverse it. So it'll be very clear when we vote to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, through you, thank you, Commission.
You're welcome.
From the residents.
I do have a, there was one resident that was unable to make it tonight, and she submitted a email to me, and I had told her that I would be happy to read it, so her thoughts can be entered into the record. So if you could please bear with me as I read this. This comes from Jessica Roach, who resides at 145 Derby Road. She apologizes for not being able to make the meeting. As you are aware, anywhere from 1,600 to 2,000 cars per day use Derby Road as a fast cut through an exiting Northgate Plaza, Sigourney Street, or coming off of Squire Road, My concern over the years is not only the traffic pattern, but the rate of speed at which people take the turn, since it's so soon after the light. As a mother of two, my small children have never been safe in front of our home until now. I am not talking about riding a bike on the street. I am talking about simply standing on the sidewalk and being safe from oncoming traffic. Last meeting, a neighboring resident mentioned that we purchased a home near commercial property as a reason why we should bear the burden of high traffic. I'd like to note that they as well reside amongst commercial property, which has been built up over the years. I think we can all agree that the current traffic situation is something that none of us were prepared for. From Market Basket, BJ's, to restaurants, shopping venues, and multiple apartment complexes. Squire Road's traffic pattern has intensified over the years. Living near a street with a small local coffee shop with no drive-through that closes at 8, and living near on a street with a fast food chain that will close between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. with a drive-through at night and day, it respects to traffic patterns and hours of operation. Frankly, we are at a breaking point. If the street reverts, that means once again a quick right turn can be taken from cars coming out of the red light from Sigourney, Northgate, Squire Road, and soon from Popeyes. This is a recipe for disaster. While we understand and accept that the Popeyes has been approved and is slated for construction as planned, we ask that Derby Road remain as it is for the safety of all. Waiting for a traffic study would be detrimental, as residents are now accustomed to the change, and reverting the street would only cause more confusion. Popeyes will be constructed prior to the finish of this study, and the safety of drivers and residents must be taken into consideration now. I understand that working in public service can be difficult and often thankless. I'd like to thank you and Councilor Serino for listening to my concerns. And that was from Jessica Roach at 145 Derby Road. Does anyone else feel like they...
Adele Cataldo, 38 Sigourney Street, 40 years. I feel Sigourney Street, we should propose to keep it this way, and we can do a study now, starting from tomorrow, of how many cars come down our street versus the 2,500 a day that went up, so that when we come in front of your new engineer group, we will, we will have the data saying, this was before and this is after. Because we can do that, right, Danny? We can
Thank you.
find out how many people are coming now down the street. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? Oh,
Kelly Resendez, 75 Grover Street. Thank you again for hearing this. I would urge you to please take Popeyes into consideration. It's going to bring on a lot more traffic than we were taking on before. Not only that, is one of the abutters that rents next to Popeyes wanted bushes and a fence over more parking. That more parking would have kind of solved the problem. But the councilors decided to let that go, and they told us that this is one of our ways to go about dealing with Popeyes. They said that, we could go for the one, we could try for the one way. So we did it, and we went about it the right way. And all we're asking for is a relief to keep it that way. We don't want to have to deal with people coming up the road drunk at 10 o'clock at night, cars banging. 27 years I lived in Revere. I've never slept so good in my life. For the last 30-day, 60-day trial. Another thing I would ask is, I know there's people from Orvis Road here opposing this. Their street goes the same way Derby is right now. Are they willing to turn their street around to take on more traffic? Because they come up Derby to go home, and they go up other streets to go home. So maybe they should turn their street around so they can go home off Squire Road. I think that would be the fair thing to do if you're going to turn Derby around. But I urge you not to. That's it.
thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. David Kelly, 99 Derby Road. I've lived in Revere my whole life, at Derby Road for 25 years. I just want to point out a couple of things. You know, we were 1,500 cars a day since Honeydew closed. We were up to 25 when Honeydew was open, 2,500, okay? Honeydew closed at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? This Popeye's Chicken is gonna be open, the drive-through is gonna be open until 9 o'clock at night or later. I don't know the exact time, but I know it's gonna go late, okay? Okay, well, even though there's not gonna be a turnout directly from Popeye's onto Derby Road, if you change the direction back, they're still gonna exit and come straight up that street, okay? And we're not gonna get 2,500 cars like we did when Honeydew was open. We're gonna get closer to 3,000 or 3,500, and it's gonna be all night long until they close. It's just unacceptable, and we don't think we can live there anymore if that happens. Things have been good. I'd love it to stay this way. And I just want to point out one more thing. I saw the data, the recent data on all the streets, okay? And none of these other streets are seeing what Derby and Sigourney saw before this change happened. It's nowhere near that. Okay, so I get everybody's frustrated because they have more cars, but they don't have 1,800 cars a day. They don't have 2,500 cars a day. They don't have 4,500 cars a day. It's not like that. What's happened, this change has made it dramatically better for the neighborhood, okay? I walk my dog up the street now, we go down Grover, it's 10 times better. Cars aren't flying around anywhere, and they do fly around. You've heard everybody on both sides say that. So I just respectfully request that you keep everything the way it is. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak? Once you...
She had a question.
Okay.
Hello, Sumter Newton, 80 Lincoln Street. I'm speaking for my mother over there, who's the president. So I had 2 points to make. The first one is the traffic study is going to be done. Like, that's not in question. So if the original petitions and everything came about because of a certain traffic pattern, it would make sense to go back to that traffic pattern in order to get the best result for the entire neighborhood. You know, there might be a different solution that is better than just having them be, what did someone say, resident-only streets. That's the first point. The second point is most of the two-way streets, Grover, Augustus, Square, they don't have things in place that the one-way streets do. Most of them don't have sidewalks, real sidewalks, for pedestrians to walk on. More than the new constructions all have sidewalks, the older houses. There are some. I'm not saying they're a whole street, but there are some.
Okay.
Well, there's none on Augustus. There's people walking in the middle of the street, and there's cars coming from both directions. So if
Please allow her to speak without interrupting her.
If it's a one-way street, at least, unless, you know, the case of the drunk driver, maybe they were going down the wrong way, but most people are going in one direction. If you've got it coming from both directions, and again, Augustus was getting the same as Derby or more initially, then it's harder for safety. It's harder for, you know, there was a fire apparatus that got stuck because there was cars parked on both sides, cars coming from both sides, and there was nowhere for the fire truck to go. It is a safety issue, and I think the reasonable thing to make the traffic study most beneficial for the entire neighborhood would be to revert back to the original traffic pattern, see what they come up with, and then see what happens. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, good evening. Is this on? Yes. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Mary Gandolfo, 619 Washington Avenue, and I was watching these meetings. I just wanted to reiterate, we talked about, and I believe you folks said the last meeting, and Sereno said at this council meeting, the study is going to include Washington Avenue, correct?
From Washington to Broadway.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate that. And because, you know, we're inundated with traffic on Washington Ave both ways. It's crazy all the time, and the speeding is horrendous, day and night. And so we really are not looking for more traffic like everyone else isn't looking for more traffic. We're certainly not looking for more traffic. And I also want to, really, all I just want is a safe way, a safe route for me and my senior friends to get down to Market Basket and back. That's all I really want. I mean, I know this is complicated, but hopefully the study will figure something out, because Market Basket is not going to disappear. And, people do have to get there in a safe manner. With winter coming, you really don't want to drive all over the Ward 6 to get to and from. That's all I just wanted to mention.
Thank you very
Please
much.
consider all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question. I don't know if I can ask it from here or if I need to go to the podium.
Well,
The question that I have is, either way, a traffic study is getting done, but my question is, if a traffic study gets done, because I don't know who had mentioned it in the past, but in some cities and towns, such as the Square One, not the Square One Mall, but the Liberty Tree Mall and so forth, or any place that's abutting residential neighborhoods, they do not allow vehicles to pass through a main road from residential neighborhoods to get into those plazas. So with a traffic study, and either or, if everything was to revert back to the original state, and they see the traffic flow going by Sigourney Street, Augusta Street, Charger Street, and they see the amount of traffic that's flowing through those neighborhoods, would that entice, help to have the state block off those entrances from Squire Road to going into Northgate?
It's a possibility, but, getting the state to block off those spots, I think would be an act of Congress, but that would certainly be part of the study.
But if
And Mass DOT will also be invited to.
But if the streets are not turned back to if the streets weren't turned back to the original ways, we would not be able to see what impact is going through those streets, going across Squire Road, or leaving Northgate, going into Derby Road, that's causing that. So it's just a question that I'm trying, if we're gonna do a traffic study, I wanna make sure that we're getting the most bang for the buck so that we can, take care of it, because I see, traffic coming from everywhere, and I'm just a question that I had.
Thank you, Ralph. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, Michelle Kelly, 99 Derby Road. I just have a follow-up with that. So am I to understand that all of the previous data that's been collected, none of that will be considered when this traffic engineer is doing
No,
the
that will
study?
be given to the traffic.
Okay, so
engineer.
that previous data they'll be able to see how many cars were coming down Derby, okay, I just wanted to make clear of that. And I also want to make clear that I want everyone to understand that this change that we initiated, and we went about the right way with the petitions and all of that and the proper channels, it was definitely initiated by a change in circumstance, that being the Popeyes. We have previous data that I recently received showing that a small coffee shop, Honeydew Donuts, increased our traffic by about 1,000 cars a day. So we were getting 1,800 cars at the time we petitioned you. Before that, when Honeydew Donuts was opened, we were getting an additional 1,000 cars a day. So we were up to about 2,800, 3,000 cars a day. And that was from a small coffee shop that closed early, that had no drive-through. So knowing that Popeyes serves about 1,000 customers a day, if not more, we're going to get at least another 3,500 cars a day. And that's what prompted this. And I want to make it clear that we were encouraged to do this by our city councilors. They knew that they approved the Popeyes. They knew that we opposed it. And so they actually said to us, try to get some relief for yourself, because we're going to approve this, but you guys go ahead, try to get some relief for yourself. And they actually encouraged us to do this. And I want to point out that Mr. Cataldo at the time, even initially, I know he has since rescinded his signature, but he even initially himself signed that petition so that we could get some relief. So I just want to make sure that that's all clear. I also wanted to just say too, that I heard someone else say, it was actually my recollection too, that when we did initiate this change, that it was kind of a consensus that we thought maybe other streets would be impacted, but we would not be reverting our streets back. However, we would be looking at solutions for those streets. So that was my recollection at the end of the meeting that we had initially. I also do want to point out that in Ricky's letter, he is suggesting that Derby remain the same for right now. And a big thing that a couple of people pointed out, and from a legal perspective, I think the city of Revere has to look at the fact that this may put a burden of additional negligence on them if they keep flip-flopping the directions of these streets. Because if accidents occur because people just can't keep up with all of these changes, I can assure you that their insurance company is going to go to the city's insurance company and try to hold the city somewhat negligent because they keep reversing directions of streets, and anybody's going to argue that it's going to be difficult for motorists to keep up with those changes. And if accidents occur as a result of too many changes, they're going to be looking to the city of Revere for negligence under their liability policy. So I want to make that clear as well, and I hope you keep that in mind when you're making your decision. And the last thing, you said that we would have the opportunity to speak to the traffic engineer. How would we get notice of that? Because we're having trouble getting all the residents. I mean, I know that there was a motion Monday night to the city council. No one knew about that. They knew about the asking for the $25,000, that item, but this other motion that it wasn't on the agenda, no one knew about it. So I'm just concerned as to how will we get notice about having the opportunity to speak with the traffic engineer.
Okay, well,
Okay, thank you.
when that time does come, we will certainly advertise in the local papers. We'll do a robocall. We may even do a mailing to all those streets. I mean, it's a big issue. We didn't want to leave anybody out or not give them the opportunity to have their input. So
Okay.
we will make sure that everyone knows about it.
Okay, thank you so much, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further comments? Okay.
I understand everybody has more traffic. The only other street besides Sigourney Street that has the traffic that we had is Charger Street. We went in the last 5 years from 2,600 cars a day to 41 or 4,500 cars daily. That's a lot of cars for a residential street. We're not a major highway. Our streets are not any wider than any other street in the city. There are a lot of streets wider than that. And I hear all the complaints, and I understand because we've lived it. But no one yet has felt what we've felt on Sigourney Street. Thank you.
Okay. So I think, I don't want to cut anyone off, but I think we have a lot of information, and we know how residents feel. Do I have any comments from the members? Any motions?
One comment, Mr. Chairman. I think it's clear to say that the changes that we made did not go far enough to allow the improvements that we expected. Obviously, Sigourney and Derby saw tremendous improvements, whereas Augustus and Keeney, parts of Grover, didn't see anything at all. Their traffic increased dramatically also. So, I don't know. I'm at the mindset right now that this traffic study is more important than anything else to get this thing rolling and have that dictate how we're going to go. There's one suggestion that was made, and I see it as being viable, is that Derby seems to be working out now the way it is. And with Popeyes coming, it certainly would benefit the Derby Street residents to have it the way it is, to maintain the way it is. I'm wondering if we can keep Derby the way it is presently. I know it's important to have the traffic study done and go back to the way the pre-existing conditions were to get the real true results to move forward. But I don't know, I'm on the fence with with Derby, changing that back. And that's my opinion right now.
Okay, any other comments? So we can take these streets up separately if that makes everyone more comfortable. Do I hear a motion to, on Sigourney Street specifically, to return it to the way it was, or to keep it the way it exists now?
Mr. Chairman, can I make a recommendation? Can we take a 5 or 10-minute recess?
If you need to have a recess, we can have one, but,
Even if it's just a 5-minute recess?
okay,
Just, I had a couple of things just with the other members of the commission.
okay. Well, open meeting law, we need to discuss, anything we need to discuss, we need to do it in public. So,
It all has to be here.
right,
Okay.
exactly. So feel free to say whatever you want to say, and like I say, that's open meeting law. We need to discuss it, everything out in front of everyone.
Very good, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank everyone here, because there's a real traffic problem in the neighborhood that was a lot worse than we anticipated. And when some of the changes were made, you could see how it kind of spread the traffic throughout the area. So the traffic study is definitely needed. And I want to thank everybody for their civility. Just everyone has an opinion, their thoughts, and people are affected by it. But everyone conducted themselves with civility, like I said. Everyone was an adult, everyone was allowed to speak, we had no arguments, everything went smooth. And I know it's a tumultuous thing. The neighborhood clearly has some issues, and when you see the amount of traffic that is getting pushed down different side streets, it's concerning. Like, I didn't realize how much traffic really went down some of those streets. Sigourney, Derby, and now it's getting dissipated throughout the neighborhood. So it's something that really has to be looked at, and there really needs to be an in-depth study that was probably never done down there. We did a little bit, but you need an in-depth study, and we have to try to have real professionals come in and give us some possible options or solutions to resolve this for the neighborhood. And like the chairman said, I think we should have another open meeting when the traffic engineer is here, so everyone can talk to him and speak to them, and we'll make sure it's well advertised. Because there's a lot of good points that have come out of this. But the entire neighborhood needs some relief. But now some of the folks on the other side are starting to see how the folks on Derby and Sigourney were drastically affected. It slowed things down in their neighborhood, now it increased in other neighborhoods. Now everybody's kind of getting a feeling of how crazy it was on those streets, or how busy. So we're going to try to come to a resolution. And I know the city's on board, they're going to put the money forward for the traffic study, which I think it was fairly expensive, but we'll get to the bottom of it. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience and civility, because I'll be honest, I was ready to see some arguments, people heated and upset. We didn't have any of that the last two meetings. So everyone, it's appreciated how we were able to debate this and talk about it. Thank you.
Any further comments from the commission? If not, do I hear a motion? Would you like to take the streets up separately? I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's the way we.
Okay, so do I hear a motion concerning Sigourney Street?
I love the way Sigourney Street is working now for the benefit of the residents.
I just want to clarify as the former traffic director that before we finalize, we need Mass DOT approval on the permanent changes. So once all these meetings are done, they're going to want notification and their approval to make it permanent. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So if we revert it back and do a study on it, they'll want the whole study the way it was.
Say it again.
They'll want the study the way it was.
Okay.
You know, before and after.
Okay.
So if we revert it back to the way it was, they're going to want all the numbers from before, all the public hearings, all the advertisements.
Mhm.
And then their approval on it, whether keeping it or not keeping it. So we're just gonna recommend to them whatever you guys decide.
So what you're saying is Mass DOT has the final say on what we do on residential streets?
Where the part of Derby Road connects to Squire Road, it needs Mass DOT approval.
Okay.
The part of Sigourney Street that does not connect is just city approval.
Okay. Anything that connects,
If it abuts a state-run, controlled road,
mhm,
you need state approval.
mhm. How quick or how does that happen?
That would be a letter through the mayor's office from the city with all the information all the meetings, all the information has to be gathered
Mhm.
over the past 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
And again, none of the studies we did were, in fact, studies.
Mhm.
We took raw data and we presented numbers.
Mhm.
No comparisons, no comparison numbers. Raw numbers of what the effect was
Mhm.
and the maximum numbers of cars we saw. Just to clarify it before we decide.
Thank you, Sergeant. Okay, back to a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think this situation in general, traffic-wise for everybody, it's difficult. I don't think right now there's any way for us to make a decision that's going to be, beneficial for everybody. But I do think that the traffic study is important. It needs to be done quickly. I think that it does need also to show how bad, how poor it was before, because I think that would be lost on the traffic study now. Also in light of Mr. Giannino's comments related to DOT, I'd like to make a motion to revert both back to what it was prior to the 60-day trial period.
Mhm. Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so ordered. We will, as of November 1st, we will revert those two streets back to the way they were and push for the traffic study to start within a few weeks. I think all the mechanisms are in place that we can start that very soon. Like I said, we've already asked for proposals. Those should be in hand by next week. And as soon as a purchase order is obtained, which only takes a couple more days, we can start the study. That's it. Thank you. Okay. We're going to take a brief 5-minute recess before we continue on. I'll let the chambers clear. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We've returned to our regular order of business. We are now into requests. A public hearing request from Councilor Cogliandro to amend Schedule 5 of Title 10 by adding a do not enter sign at the corner of Roosevelt and Revere Street. The new do not enter sign will be enforced between 7:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. and 3 p.m. Do I hear a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Move to a public hearing.
Thanks.
Seconded.
Second. So moved. This is a request from the Community Development Department in regards to the following new and proposed residential developments. They shall be included under Section 10.34.020 as non-eligible for residential parking stickers. 21 Revere Beach Boulevard, 320 Revere Beach Boulevard, 580 Revere Beach Boulevard, 50 Ocean, 90 Ocean, 646 Ocean, 656 Ocean, 1133 North Shore Road, 1540 North Shore Road, 94 Shirley Avenue, 43 Nahant Avenue, 177 Shirley, 180 Shirley Ave, 57 Shirley Ave, 207 Shirley Avenue, 191 Shirley Avenue, 60 Shirley Avenue, 13 Nahant Ave, 257 Washington Ave, 5 Washington Ave, 810 Washington Ave, 22 Whitten Ave Extension, 93 Bennington Street, 344 Salem Street, 333 Lee Burbank Highway, and 791 Broadway. Do I hear a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Motion.
Motion, second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? The following residential developments shall be removed from Section G and Section F as eligible for residential parking stickers. 154 Brad Street Ave, 300 Fenno Street, and 235 Revere Street. Do I hear a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Motion to move.
Motion.
Public hearing.
Second.
Second it.
A public hearing request by Ralph DeChico to amend Schedule 11 of Title 10, handicapped person parking by adding 90 Kimball Avenue. Do I hear a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Motion.
Motion, thank you. Councilor Cogliandro is requesting a public hearing to amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, parking restrictions generally, by adding Lantern Road from Squire Road to Ward Street, no parking anytime. Do I hear a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Motion to move it. Public hearing.
Thank you. All in favor? Councilor McKenna requests to amend Schedule 9 of Title 10, isolated stop signs by adding Vinyl Street for westbound traffic at Haddon Street. Do I hear a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Motion.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Councilor McKenna requests to amend Schedule 9 of Title 10, isolated stop signs by adding Vinyl Street for eastbound traffic at Haddon Street. Do I hear a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second, thank you. All in favor? Request from the resident, okay, 74 Victoria, we have, we're going to look into this matter for her. She spoke earlier. And number 9, request from Councilor Cogliandro to amend Schedule 9(8) of Title 10, change the eastern side of Lantern Road to no parking anytime from Squire Road to Ward Street. Okay, hold on.
Motion to send to a hearing.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move that to a public hearing. Seeing no further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, second. Thank you. Motion, meeting adjourned.